Welcome to The Pull Bags, Back Issue Classics. Join us as we talk about comics from yesteryear, from DC, Marvel, and more. So open your ears to hear our discussion of the older continuities, as the Back Issue Classics are also what's in The Pull Bag.
Hello and welcome to The Pull Bag. This is Back Issue Classics, episode 86, a la 1986, folks, because it is time to talk one last time for now here in Autobotly April, even though this is May 3rd, to talk about IDW and their Transformers series. We're going to be doing X-Rid, Not Rid, book formerly known as Rid, Volume 10, and More Than Meets the Eye, Volume 10. So 2 trades, 1 podcast, like we've been doing, of course. Ryan, Mr. Nightbeat, is with me here.
Hello.
Hello.
We should celebrate by talking to the authors of the books, so I can tell James Roberts how much I love him.
Yes.
Only way less creepily than that. James, do you want to see my Sonic fan fiction on DeviantArt? Oh, sorry. Anyway.
Oh my God. Please no. Alright, we are here to talk, like I said, more Transformers. We hope everybody on the Pull Bag and all things Transformers has been liking the comic coverage. We're going to tease the next Autobotly month at the end of this podcast, so stay tuned for that.
And if you haven't been enjoying the coverage, email Mike at thisweekingeek.net. Oh, anyway.
That's not my email address.
I know.
He'll be like, who the fuck is emailing me about Transformers comics?
Well, I was going to give out Andrew's email address, but he'd probably get mad. I'll give out his phone number at the end of the show, though.
Ladies and gentlemen, this podcast has now become the bathroom wall. Anyway.
I can guarantee you won't have a good time talking to him. I never do. Anyway.
Wow, dude. Come on now. Alright. Rid. Not Rid, X-Rid, whatever. Issue number 50. Big double issue starting off the All Hail Optimus storyline.
Which is pretty much built to this.
Mm-hmm.
So, one thing about comics. Alright, this is another thing. When did this come up? Oh, this came up when we did a Nerd News. That at some point I think we should just talk about some of the issues or things surrounding comic books and maybe why they're not being read as much today. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to preface this with saying that I like X-Rid. I like Barber's work overall. Mm-hmm. I do not think it is as good as Roberts' work, but I think that's a really high bar. Mm-hmm. And I think if it weren't for Roberts, Barber's stuff would be known as basically the best Transformers stories, long form running. Mm-hmm. And I put that, I willingly put that up against the UK stuff from Furman, US stuff from Furman, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. So, now that I've prefaced all this, one of the things with comics is the storytelling now either happens sort of in terms of you buy a trade and it contains a storyline that will sometimes kind of build into the next thing, but it should generally be a pretty self-contained story. Mm-hmm. That hasn't really been the last few trades of RID. So as we move into this one, everything's been building up to this particular trade. Mm-hmm. And, as we go through what happens.
Yeah, before we get to that, issue 50 has 6 total covers, according to the TF Wiki.
Yeah, which is great. Bugger off with that stuff, too, by the way, when we're talking about annoyances in comics.
Oh, 6 different covers?
Yeah, not a big fan of the alternate covers. I think it
was 50th issue. It was celebratory. IDW generally has 3 covers, regular, retail incentive, and subscription. So
I mean, it's not as bad as it was Spawn 100 that I can't remember if it was 15 or 20. It was a lot.
Back to the Future number 1 from IDW, when they first got the license to do Back to the Future, had, I believe it was 20 or 30 covers.
Yeah. Don't do that, because that usually just annoys retailers.
Yeah.
That's why, because you get people that want a particular cover, so you feel like you got to bring them all in, and then you end up with a whole bunch of unsold. Or even worse, the companies that say you can only get this cover if you pre-order, 100 copies of our book. Oh, good, so we can, have these 99 copies sitting on the shelf because one guy requested this. Wonderful. Anyway, I'm getting severely off topic.
The 6 covers, there's only 2 out of the 6 that I absolutely love. It's the All Hail Optimus cover, which is the cover of the trade, which is him with the Earth in his hand. And then it's, Heavy is the Head that wears the crown with him wearing Starscream's crown. Those are the 2 best covers for me.
That's one thing we haven't talked about much through this entire run of both books. The covers for both books are terrific.
They are.
Everyone that works on the cover art, if I had them all handy, I'd just read off the names or something. But in any case, it's excellent. Much like the interior art, like everybody that's worked on these does a great job, including the writers, even though I'm about to...
I know. So just to go over it for this trade for Rid, Andrew Griffith and Thomas Deere on the regular cover. Subscription A is Jonathan Hickman. Subscription B is Mike Choi. Subscription C, which is Optimus, is The Whole World in His Hands, is John Paul Bove. Retailer incentive Countdown to 50 cover was Alex Milne and Josh Perez. And the Concave exclusive, where he's wearing Starscream's crown, is by Livio.
Yeah, Hickman, an exceptionally notable name there, considering he's pretty big in terms of comics right now. Anyway, and as for the interior art, just to get all this over with, too, it's Andrew Griffith, Casey Collar, Livio again, and then Priscilla
Tramontano.
Tramontano. Me speak good English. Wow. Anyway... those are your interiors, who all do an excellent job. I'll point out specifics later. And yeah, the usual crew: Josh Burcham, John Paul Bove, Josh Perez, La Fuente, and Livio as well doing the colors. And then we have Tom Long and it's Chris Mowry joining him on lettering.
Sweet.
And everybody does a really good job here. So before I, tear this apart, so. When we last left our intrepid crew, Galvatron was attacking Earth, and Optimus and his group had come in to cut them off. And holy crap, talk about overkill. So you got a handful of Decepticons, and we have 2 of the Gestalts from the Autobot side, namely Superion and Victorion. Victorion, who's ridiculously powerful, has gravity-based powers and that kind of thing as well. But in any case, for whatever reason, Galvatron and his crew think they can stand up. They have Galvatron thinks that they've got the ultimate weapon here with a mind bomb. Except the Autobots are immune to it because Wheeljack's figured this out already. And all it does is knock out a few more of his Decepticons, leaving a total of 7 Decepticons standing. So you got 7 cons versus a gigantic army of Autobots, and somehow they hold them off long enough for the humans to attack.
Yep.
And in the end, let's skip forward here. In the end, Galvatron gets away, mostly thanks to sort of the human intervention. The humans kill Aileron's friend at the end of this with a satellite weapon, which really seems to cheer her up, at which point the Autobots have to run away. And
my only note for this entire trade, all-out war. That's my only note.
Well, it's more like it's just a bunch of skirmishes just like that. And then, we end the issue with some of the politics and finding out, getting to see, BlackRock kind of disassembled by Galvatron, and he's kind of working with him, not altogether willingly. But anyway, so as with the other issues, my biggest problem here, the humans are stupid in this book.
They are.
It drives me nuts. There's no discernible difference between the Autobots and Decepticons to them. You'd think they might have figured out there were some differences. Gee, I don't know, when the Decepticons took over Earth and killed 10% of the population of the entire planet, you might want to get some intel on your enemies at that point. You know, just gonna throw that out there. And one thing that's interesting, on a website, there is somebody that's reading through the IDW stuff in order. And this is somebody who's a Generation 1 fan and hadn't read any of it. They're finally up to the More Than Meets the Eye and XRID stories. Although, at the point he's at, it's still called Robots in Disguise. And it's interesting because he keeps ticking points off of the Prowl storylines. And this is where I'm getting into why this is pertinent. He keeps ticking points off the Prowl storylines because Prowl is so interested in Spike. And the stuff with Spike and his introduction and his existence as a character, which, by the way, is from the Mike Costa days, is so bad that he just keeps docking at points to this day, which I feel like is fair. Because Spike's just a bad character.
Yeah, Spike is...
And I know we've said that before, so I don't want to harp on it too much, but like, a lot of the human characters in this just kind of drag down a lot of the book, and it annoys me because the Transformers are so interesting. Especially, one thing I'll say, you know, you might have this in notes somewhere, I found Soundwave really interesting in these trades.
Yeah, Soundwave is the shining point of Volume 10 for Rid for me. Honestly, yeah, I mean, he is. Because he is... Megatron is gone. Well, he's not gone, but he's, you know...
He's not a Decepticon. Yeah, he's not in the picture, whatever you want to say.
You know, and Soundwave wants to basically live in harmony.
Yeah, Soundwave seems to genuinely want peace. Now, he still doesn't care about humans at this point. Obviously, that changes.
Yeah.
But he genuinely seems to just want peace for the Transformer race.
Yeah.
And he's tired of being deceived and used by people. And we see it especially later on. He goes against... You know, he will not follow Optimus, even though he definitely wants revenge on Galvatron. But he's just sick and tired of, you know, people using him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets blackmailed, and Optimus uses him anyway. But, no, I really liked him in these books.
Yeah, Soundwave, I would almost say, and I could be wrong, but honestly, Soundwave is the character to follow, and Soundwave is almost the protagonist. Almost. Not quite.
I was just going to say, having said all that, Soundwave's appearance in More Than Meets the Eye broke my heart way more than anything he does in this.
Well, obviously, we'll get to that, but yeah, I mean...
I'm just saying, like, he's only in that for 3 panels, and holy cow.
And those are the 3 most heart-wrenching panels in Transformers comic history.
I'd argue there's worse in that issue, but anyway.
Okay, we'll get to that but later. I'm saying, in terms of his character...
Okay, for him, maybe.
Yes. But in Rid, he's absolutely awesome. I absolutely love him in this because it's just so refreshing to see. And I know you're going to get into John's writing later, and that's fine, and whatever, but it's just...
His writing is excellent, especially for the Transformers. It's just the human stuff and the human politicking is very insignificant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's not a particularly good reason for it. Like, you have I'm trying to figure out how to word this. One of the reasons I love The Expanse is there is an incredible discovery made by humankind that completely changes the face of the universe. But the humans in The Expanse are so terrible human beings and terrible people that it doesn't matter. They still, like, continue their old grudges and wars and everything else. because humans are just dead set on that kind of thing. The issue, and there are people that break away from that in The Expanse. The issue with that in RID is nobody breaks away from it. Spike is still a piece of garbage who just hates all the Transformers and doesn't care who gets hurt as long as it's one of them. The only one that kind of comes across as even having the slightest bit of a brain to bother learning anything about their enemies is Marissa.
Yeah.
Like, even the president doesn't care, and I'm into issue 2 now when I'm talking about this, but, like, even the president doesn't seem to care that there are definite differences, and that, you know, they may not like the Autobots, but they're clearly trying to do things to help rather than hinder. And
yeah, absolutely.
You can distrust them, that's fine, they should, but at some point you have to acknowledge that, gee, maybe we shouldn't have signed a treaty with a bunch of, you know, purple insigniaed psychopaths that keep trying to wreck stuff.
Yeah. What I love, I'm just going to go back just for a minute.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I know we're on to 51 now, but in 50, there are two things I absolutely love about this trade and what Roberts will do a few times when we get to that. But, you know, stand down, Galvatron, or face my wrath. That's essentially Optimus quoting Megatron from the movie. That's okay. It's not the face my wrath part is
no, but it's definitely more proactive / angry than we're used to with Optimus.
Yeah, absolutely.
In this series, he's continued to kind of get darker and more angry. And a lot of that is based on the initial sort of thing in this. Like, basically, in this first battle, in this issue, Optimus and Co. could have ended this at this point, but the humans intervene.
Yeah.
Start attacking both sides.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, again, if you're the humans, wouldn't you want, like, one side to eliminate the other, and then when they're weakened, then you attack?
Yep.
Instead of just jumping in and getting everyone pissed off at you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking like actual tactics, which the humans in this are too stupid to use. But anyway.
Yeah, so part 2, I like it. I'm just kind of weirded out by Bumble Ghost. I mean, I know we're not there yet, but every time I see yellow, it's like, oh, I know Bumblebee's coming. And of course, the reason why I'm seeing yellow now is because we have Sunstreaker here, because he's trying to save Sideswipe.
Well, Sideswipe, is comatose post whatever it is that happened to him in way back in 9, which still annoys me, because, I mean, he ate a grenade at close range, then he's shot in the head at point-blank range, and then they just kind of go like, yeah, he's in a coma. And, Jesus, what's it take to kill these guys? Anywho, the main gist of the second issue, and this is one of my issues with it, is that it's kind of a holding pattern. Aileron gets angry. Sterling has died. That's their friend from the previous issue.
Right.
And she goes to visit the White House and is treated basically like any visitor would be treated by the Trump administration, and is immediately attacked. Wait
a second. Wait. Wait a minute here. This comic came out before Agent Orange was elected, so...
I'm just saying, like, if you had an angry mech-suited from the Chinese Transformers... No, anyway.
Oh, my God.
What? They are, in this issue.
I know.
Anywho, so Victorian intervenes to save Sunstreaker and Prime and Aileron. And that's kind of the end of the issue. There was an awful lot of human politicking in between, but I already mentioned that it's fairly insignificant.
Yeah.
I really don't care about Spike and his family, to put it mildly. To put it the way I would want to would require a number of expletives.
This is an explicit podcast, folks.
No,
so,
I know, but
you know.
Man, at one point are you writing your book and you go, this is a bad character? Because trust me, it's happened to me when I've been writing and that kind of thing before, but whatever. Issue 3.
The medium and the message.
Issue 3 is a little stronger in terms of we get the Cybertronian politics, which is at least a little more intriguing.
It's way more interesting.
Yeah, and I'll note too, since I'm hard on him on occasion, this issue is some of the best of Livio's art.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely adore. There's a couple sequences I adore. The Galvatron RC fight where they just sort of talk and kind of explain to each other where each other's position is right now.
Mm-hmm.
A, that's a good scene, and B, it's quite good art. And then the other one I liked was just sort of the outlines of Megatron and Shockwave on a later page when the Mistress of the Flame is talking to Optimus, and they get these sort of like fire-ish outlines of them. I liked that a lot too.
Yeah, that was really, really good. And that's what I love about having them. Like, okay, we all know red for Autobot, purple for Decepticon, orange for Autobot, whatever, red, orange, whatever. And sometimes, like, and that's what I said last time, and in when we did Rid Volumes 8 and 9, was that you have to have two different color palettes for the different, like, for Earth, it has to be blue sky, green grass, or whatever, and that's what we had in Part 2. And what I've noticed is these are going back and forth between Earth and Cybertron, and that's what I don't want. If you're going to give me a 5-part story, I don't want 3 of those parts directly on Earth, back to back. I want it going back and forth between Earth and Cybertron, and that's what they're doing, and that's what works for me. So seeing the orange palette, seeing Optimus and the Mistress of Flame, it's just so fun. And I think Alaron is a very interesting new character. Because she is trying to learn and not necessarily fall into Optimus Prime as a god.
Yeah, I like her. I prefer. We're not doing Till All Are One, but I don't care.
Not yet.
I prefer Windblade in that respect. That she's sort of an outsider. The thing I like about Windblade is at the start, especially, she's extremely naive.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take long for her naivety to disappear, because like it takes next to no time before she realizes, for example, Starscream's a scumbag.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long for her to come to terms with the fact that the Autobots are not particularly good overall either. Although we'll get into more of that in the one-shots.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing with Windblade, you're right. She is the main core Camian. I think that's how they say it.
Camian, whatever
Camian,
it is.
Camian, whatever it is. I tried. She's the core character on Cybertron. There's also Chromia, but because Alaron is kind of on Earth, she's,
Yeah, this gives somebody basically a Windblade to be with Prime.
Yeah.
Essentially, just because we only have one, and she's stationed on Cybertron trying to keep A, Metroplex alive, and B, Starscream in line.
Yeah.
So the most important thing in this issue is probably near the end, which is we get a long-standing kind of plot hole cleared up / brought up again as Optimus proceeds to blackmail Soundwave with the news that Soundwave allowed Horrible to die in front of Needlenose way back in Robots in Disguise.
Right.
I think that was the first trade, actually, if I remember right. Yeah, it was. Right. And that's been something that, if they told the other Decepticons that Soundwave willfully killed one of their own to cover something up, it probably wouldn't go over well, Yep.
The sub cover for 52 is Bumblebee looking at Skybite and Tank. I love that. That's hilarious. So 53 begins, and I did not notice it until now, but that's Galvatron with Blackrock and the ones and zeros and whatever, because we're kind of learning that Blackrock isn't exactly... And honestly, I wish they would have done something a little different. Instead of using Blackrock, I wish they would have used, like, Dr. Arkeville. That would have been fun.
I don't mind that. I
Yeah.
don't know. He wasn't a great character.
No.
So, I mean, the Autobots and Decepticons, in this case, Soundwave and his crew, we kick off the issue with them sort of setting up their staging and getting ready to assault Galvatron's underwater fortress.
Yep.
And I mean, the rest of the issue really is that fight.
Yeah, that's pretty much what the issue is the underwater fight.
Now, at the end of the previous issue, Starscream set up the news media to come through and, basically jump/surprise Optimus, which is exactly what happens.
Yeah.
To make him look bad.
Yeah. What I do love about the underwater battle, Galvatron's ship, the Nemesis. I will never not love all the callbacks, because...
That was never his ship, though. I mean,
I know it was never his ship, obviously, but...
No, I know.
How are you going to work in the reference without, So, yeah, the whole battle here in 53 is about Galvatron figuring out the Earth Enigma, I guess you could say.
Yeah, BlackRock has the power of the combination of, or the Enigma combination, whatever the hell it is. Anyway,
his source code is part of the Enigma of combination.
Yeah, so Galvatron, through BlackRock, Galvatron's able to combine, and as we learn, uncombine first the Transformers at will. So he breaks up Victorion. And then forces a group of Autobots and Decepticons together into Skyrain.
Yeah.
And the issue ends with sort of that merger.
Yeah, the Skyrain merger. Oh my god. You know what it reminds me of, the Skyrain thing? Power core combiners. Anybody can combine with anybody. That's a thing.
It reminds me of a really ugly Transformer, because Skyrain's design is not pretty.
No, well, you got Skylinks in there. That's why it's not pretty.
Well, that's and I mean that's not the artist, by the way. The toy is ugly too.
Yeah, no, we're not saying it's the art. We're just saying it's because it's Skylinks, it's Cosmos, and somebody else. I forget. Sunstreaker, okay. Yeah. So with 54, we start that one off with...
Superion hasn't been broken apart, and they begin sort of speculating why, as well as Prime and the rest of their forces who are still in Monument Valley, so Prime, Soundwave, Aileron, and the News Network, also get attacked by the humans, who continue to be real useful. And, that's... As we move on, the next sort of important note is that Superion is a natural combiner, and so he has the ability to manipulate the code.
Yeah.
As he learns after he gets knocked around a bit. And he begins to do so, and he fixes the code... and makes himself larger in the process, basically by accident.
Yeah.
But still, and he roughs up the Nemesis. BlackRock gets away with Skywarp.
Yeah, Skywarp actually moved!
That's Skywarp taking off.
I think that was Astro Train landing, actually.
Whatever. Anyway. Prime convinces Soundwave to read the humans' minds who are attacking them. Superion breaks apart. This is all happening sort of concurrently. Soundwave discovers that humans are a lot like Cybertronians and have the same sort of emotions and that kind of thing. Which, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Galvatron gets away underwater. Nobody else does. Well, except for Skywarp. He leaves with BlackRock.
Yep.
probably because he's had about enough. And we finished the issue with the fairly major note that Soundwave, Optimus Prime, raises a Titan from Earth.
Yes. This is the Metro Titan.
Which, oh boy, I'm so happy, because if there's one thing I wanted more of, it's the Transformers on Earth. So I was ecstatic when they established a city there, oh boy.
Yeah, the Transformers just broke bad, everybody.
That's some real heavy sarcasm. I'm so sick of fucking Earth. Anyway.
Honestly, Cybertron and the Lost Light stuff is my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it just flows a lot better. And again, part of that is the human characters are terrible, non-compelling, and to be blunt, they're poorly written and utilized. I have no interest in hearing from any of them. Now, again, part of that is when they were established, they were garbage, and there's no coming back from that.
That was before Barber.
Yeah, there's no fixing a lot of these characters. Spike in particular is just not going to be redeemable. And I don't know that there's anything you can do to make a long-time reader care about him.
Yeah, no.
And his backstory is such a part of who he is in this run, for whatever reason, that you almost need to be aware of it, at least somewhat. So a lot of people will go back and read the Costa stuff or read about it.
Yeah.
And I've seen very few people write about it positively. So you're not going to end up with a very positive sort of feeling about it. I would have just wrote him out. Just use a new character or something.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll be killed soon.
I was going to say, yeah, kill Spike off, have him have a son named Sparkplug, age Sparkplug up, and whatever. Anyway.
Don't even make it the same family. Who cares?
I know.
There are more humans on Earth than the, 4 we saw in the Transformers cartoon, for crying out loud.
Oh, God, Chip Chase. We can bring him in.
No. No. No.
So we go back to... Okay. We go back to Cybertron. Thanks to your reporters, everyone saw what Optimus did. Raised a Titan. So...
Yeah, I mean, they mentioned...
Windblade looks really, really... I don't know, like that panel of her where she says that. I don't know if she is sad, angry, I know she's not excited. She's got this weird, sad, almost frowny, depressive look on her face.
Yeah, I don't know. The bulk of this issue is Galvatron fighting with Soundwave, RC, and Prime. And it should be noted, Galvatron gets Astrotrain killed, which for the millionth time is one of my problems with Galvatron, and that is his willingness to just off his own people. Why would you follow this guy? There's no reason. Yeah. Astrotrain is an idiot at this point for being loyal.
Yeah.
And I like Astrotrain, but yeah, he
I
bites.
love Astrotrain, and this depressed me to all hell. When I was a kid, I enjoyed the Astrotrain action figure more than I did the Blitzwing one. I liked them both, but I just liked Astrotrain more. I like both of them in the old cartoon series, but this just depresses me to all hell.
Blitzwing liked football, so he was way better.
Okay.
What?
All right.
I'm just saying. No, anyway.
So the only highlight I have here after Astrotrain's demise, the fact I'm not going to leave you. When did you get feelings? Just go. RC and Cosmos. That was hilarious.
Yeah. I liked the final showdown was good and well done.
Mm-hmm.
Prime, kills Galvatron, executing him, and then puts his head on the White House lawn.
Yeah.
Which is pretty harsh, but awesome.
Yeah.
And we get sort of a 3-page denouement at the end, which was nice.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice to see, or at least have a little bit of the after effects. And not a whole lot, but it worked.
Yeah.
So we see, we get to see a page of Actually, it's more of a page and a half or so. Well, full page if you add it up. Of Earth, the Titan, is now a city for them. The Council is in love with Optimus for raising the Titan, which Starscream let them all watch, which was not a good call. And then he has a chat with Bumblebee's ghost, basically about how he badly screwed up.
Told you so.
Yep.
That's the best line from Starscream and Bumblebee is the end of this, was the I told you so. People might be wondering, but wait, TFU and Mike and Ryan the Uneven Flow, weren't there 2 more issues? There are. 56 and 57. But they're not in Volume 10. They're in Titan's Return.
Yeah, they're contained in the Titan's Return because they were the prelude to that.
Oh, okay.
The prelude / Titan's Return itself, if I remember right, was only 1 issue.
Right, it was. Yes.
But it started with 2 issues of XRID, and then it's finished off by the final 2 issues of More Than Meets the Eye.
Yeah, and that kind of...
Which, yay, Fort Max is back. But anyway.
Yeah, overall, Volume 10, I liked it. I thought it was interesting. I like some of Barber's writing. I love the art in this. I think the art in this is really good. It was out of the 4 that we've done for Rid, Volume 6 to 10, I'd probably have to say it's my favorite.
Yeah, it's
out of the 4. I mean, you've got Soundwave almost, like I said before, almost a sympathetic character to the point of he could be a protagonist. You've got Optimus going all, give me your head, which, is more movie than comic, but whatever. You've got RC, showing some character growth.
Yeah, I like
quite a lot, actually.
We didn't talk about that. That she's been a character that, since a not very good beginning, we will say, in Furman's Spotlight and the early days, has very much had to be redeemed into something more.
Yeah.
And this was the first one where, she starts really improving.
Yeah. Absolutely. She does. And it's just a nice character-driven story that I think is easily followed. And the art, as we said before, the art is amazing. I love the differences, because there have to be differences like I've already talked about, but I love the differences between Earth and Cybertron. I love the different art styles. Because I don't mind that if you have, like I said before, if you have 1 issue on Earth and then the next issue's on Cybertron, I don't mind having 2 different artists do that. Now, if it's 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 artists in 1 book all at once, that's a little strange, that's a little weird, but other than that, I think this is really good. I almost want to give this a 5, but I'm going to give it a 4.
It gets a solid 8/4 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk about More Than Meets the Eye, Volume 10, after this.
Hello, geeks and geekettes! Looking for a podcast that covers a vast array of topics? Then check out Altered Geek Unleashed, where we discuss our thoughts on this week's geeky news, tech, gaming, television shows, movies, cartoons, comics, and more. So, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks, every Friday on the Geekcast Radio Network.
Because the world needs another movie podcast.
The Geekcast Radio Network presents for your listening pleasure the Cinema Geek.
Hosted by Amanda, Kevin, Matt, and Dan.
Each week we dive headfirst in the landscape of movies as we discuss movie news,
Play movie games.
Go in-depth on reviews.
And even have a top 10 countdown or two.
Also, don't miss our director retrospective series, where we review noted directors' movies film by film.
Bottom line is, if you love movies and love podcasts, you need to experience the Cinema Geeks.
You can find us on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, or GeekCastRadio.com.
Decepticon, the superhero webcomic. Decepticon's got superhero antics and sexy girls. For action, comedy, mayhem, and more, read it now at Decepticon.com. DASIEN.com.
We are back here in Autobotly April on the Pull Bag and all things Transformers, talking about More Than Meets the Eye, Volume 10. You want to get the creative out of the way?
Same people as usual. Robert's writing, Milne and Cahill doing the art with some additional stuff from Sakamoto. Colors are by Lafuente, Tara Montano. That's better than I did last time. And John Paul Bove. And then the letters are by Tom Long again.
Absolutely.
And everything in this book is outstanding. The art, the lettering, it is phenomenal. Absolutely it is. And we open with one of my favorite story so far pages, just because it's very minimalist. Like every bit starts with the letter A, but it actually sums up the series really well if you've been reading it.
Yeah.
And then it has probably, three of my favorite setup pages in a Transformer book, as the Lost Light crew has sent out their sort of last rites. And we see everybody substantial's reactions to it. So we get to see, see Jetfire and Prime watch it first. And we get to see, Starscream and Scoop, Fort Max and Red Alert, Windblade. We get to see the Scavengers, Wheeljack's with Windblade. I should have mentioned him, too. And anyway, one of the things I love is all of it is dripping with character. There's more character in everybody's, usually 2 or 3 word bubble goodbyes, whatever you want to call them, than there are in entire comics.
I know, and it's so well written. There is so much here.
Like Rung's stuff where he says, if I die in my alt mode, disassemble me just in case, whatever it takes, just put me beyond use. Which is a point to, we don't know what Rung turns into, and it's apparently something insanely significant. But it's been a mystery of the series. And so, A, it's depressing, but B, it's a point to that. And then we get Magnus finally using the word fun, which was great, even though he struggles. Yeah. I really liked Whirl's just no funeral, which sums his thing up well. Nightbeat wants his head left if possible.
Okay, we got to talk about this. All right, so Nightbeat is your favorite character.
Yeah.
I've known this for 2 or 3 years at this point. Since we decided to go back, or I decided we would go back and do all of these trades in this Spotlight month here inside the Pull Bag, every time, and I've told you this already, I've said it in the other podcast, every time I read Nightbeat, I hear your voice in my head.
Yeah,
you have
really
to...
Unfortunate.
No, it's a good... Because half the stuff he says, I know, is stuff you would say. So at some point, I may end up writing out various lines for you to record.
You do that sometime.
Oh, God, it's
As
just
you die.
so hilarious. Yes. Speaking of dying, I mean, we already had this before. Remain in Light was the Volume 5 story
Yeah.
arc for Mother Meets the Eye, and now we have The Dying of the Light. That's by far the best title for one of the Transformers stories ever.
It's strong.
Very strong.
And so the warning we discover through Optimus and Jetfire was sent out 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so we jump back to 3 weeks ago. The Autobots liberating a planet with Megatron at the forefront, but he's commanding them from the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing his vow of nonviolence. He's not actually involved in the fight, but he's coordinating everybody, and so there's no losses. We kind of get a, things seem pretty good. Megatron,
Right.
by the way, gets to... I should have brought it up in the scenes sort of bit we do, but he gets to say Autobots roll out, which is cute.
Okay, yeah, we gotta talk, because that's the... Once again, you told me that I was going to end up not liking Rodimus after reading this.
Well, that's later, but anyway.
I know that's later, but at the beginning here, I really dig... It's not so much Rodimus, it's Rodimus and Megatron together.
Yeah, they work well together. Megatron's obviously the more serious, focused one.
Yeah. Because, Rodimus is, that easy-go-lucky kind of guy kind of thing, and I just, I love this exchange between them. This is Megatron. It was my idea to make the most of this quest by helping people along the way, but it's only right that we focus that help on our mechanical brethren. And Rodimus replies, "Oh, don't be so picky. Mechanical, organic, so what? Life is life. I tell you what, just this once, how'd you like to give the order? Would that cheer you up? Go on, say it. You know you want to. Oh, very well."
Hey, Rodimus is great through the first 3 parts of this, but we'll get to it later.
Yeah.
So we come back to the Lost Light, and Megatron's teaching a class.
I'm sorry, Professor Megatron, that just creeps me out.
It makes sense. I mean, he's the oldest of the bunch there.
Yeah, obviously.
But yeah, talking about the Knights, and one thing that comes up again is the prepare, confront, repel insignia we keep seeing from whoever it is. And Skids mentions that he saw it in the portal in the space bridge from way back in issue 21, which was the 5th trade.
Right.
And we get sort of a brief discussion. Thunderclash sees it in his visions as well. So, yeah, that's significant, but not to this trade.
Yeah.
As we continue on, Megatron suddenly just kind of loses it. We discover that that's someone has, shot the crew basically with something that causes them to relive or imagine. Actually, it's imagine in everybody's case. He imagines, or they all imagine, sort of their worst fears or something disturbing for everybody.
Yep.
I do, by the way, like that Tailgate mentions that he heard Cyclonus crying out in pain. And Cyclonus' reply is, "It's not a sound he's heard before, just so we're all clear." Which I really like. I mean,
yeah.
Rewind, of course, hears from Dominus again, and, et cetera, et cetera. Megatron's, by the way, was hearing all of the organics he's killed, basically crying out.
You know what that reminds me of? It's like 10 billion screams and then nothing. He's Obi-Wan. He's
it'd be a lot more than 10 billion, but anyway.
You know what I mean for Star Wars. You know what I mean.
Just before that, too, Megatron revealed that he's never been happier than he is at this point.
As an Autobot, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, Rodimus gets sort of his group together. And Mainframe suggests Whirl come along to guard Velocity.
Mm-hmm.
And they all leave on the Rod Pod for the source of whatever it is that fired on them.
Yeah. Before we get too far into the Rod Pod adventure, I love the panel with him and Magnus. Which is another way of saying Rod Pod Shuttle Bay for 10 minutes time. Hold on, someone fired on us and you want to run towards the gun? Yep, and then disarm them before they can take another shot.
And I liked Megatron's bit after. When did you first realize he uses bad grammar to distract you whenever you object to something he wants to do?
He does what?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Megatron and Magnus's relationship is phenomenal, and its development in the Lost Light series has been really enjoyable as well. But anyway, I'm jumping.
Okay, so what I like about the Rodimus Magnus panel that I just mentioned, it reminds me of, and I know everyone hates this and I don't care, it reminds me of Five Faces of Darkness. Don't you want to say something about peace and tranquility through the galaxy? Oh, screw that. Start the games. That's what it reminds me of, is the two of them looking at each other in the old cartoon series. And you're right. Megatron, honestly, Megatron and Rodimus and Megatron and Magnus make this whole story for me. And then, we get the Rod Pod, and I just love the Rod Pod.
Well, anyway, jumping forward, they end up on they end up at the Necrobots planet again. B, they can't get away from it, and they can't raise the Lost Light. They're immediately attacked by a number of Decepticon ships. In the melee, a bunch of them are injured to the point that we see them in the opening 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
And they end up going to the Necrobots. They call it a fortress, but it's really not. It's just a sort of a building.
Yeah.
Nightbeat and Skids discover the corpse of the Necrobot, who was killed by somebody.
Yep.
And continuing on, our crew sort of splits up. We get Ravage goes out to try to see who attacked them. Rodimus and Co. stay inside, and Rewind gets the comm system working. Yeah. And we discover that all of this was plotted by a mutiny on board the Lost Light led by Getaway.
Yeah.
Now, not all of this, as we discover, is plotted by Getaway, but...
No, obviously not. But you got Blaster there, you got Getaway.
Yeah, some of the choices are interesting. So there's Atomizer, who makes sense. Yeah. Blaster's questionable. Mainframe sort of makes sense. Blue Streak, Hoist, and Grapple are a bit of a surprise. Crosscut, Riptide's a surprise, although he did talk about not being a big fan of Megatron before. So I don't know. And there are other characters I'll be really curious when we eventually rejoin the Lost Light. I can't imagine Thunderclash going along with it, for example, or Perceptor, or... So I'll be curious to see what's happened of them. I think it's interesting we don't see them in this shot.
Yeah.
But we'll see. That's something for another book. They've mutinied, and we discover, to very few people's surprise, Ravage discovers that it's the Decepticon Justice Division themselves on board the planet, along with Desaurus's 500 troops.
Yeah, the 500 Decepticons.
And we end with Megatron realizing that, they're here for him.
Yep.
And he says, this is how it ends. So, there's about a dozen amazing scenes in this.
Yeah, we can't talk about them all. We can try to, but...
The stuff I want to sum up, Getaway's plan and how he did it was really interesting and brings in a whole ton of different things. So the nudge gun / Skids' gun filled with blanks that can wipe out memory, they used it to find out who would side with them in a mutiny, which is absolutely brilliant, although evil. And And yeah, I mean, all those callbacks are really good. The one thing I really appreciate is Getaway's not wrong.
Right.
He comments that Rodimus is a terrible captain and they haven't gotten anywhere. He's right. He even says Rodimus is an obstacle, which he basically is. I mean, I'll be curious to see how they've progressed again, when we get back to them eventually.
Yeah. Where is the line? There was a line in... I forget who says it. It's in 50, I think. Where was that? There was a line where somebody said something about right here, right now. I forget who said the damn thing, but anyway, because I wrote it down in my notes for issue 50, not for... Or maybe... No, it's 51. It's coming up, I think. Anyway.
I do want to mention that issue 50 in the individual issues has the story that's at the back of this trade.
Oh, okay.
Which is, what the hell was it? Yeah, no guns, no swords, no briefcases. Hey, I was right.
Yep.
Which, again, has about 1,000,000,001 callbacks in them, scenes. It's a good little story. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It's a really neat addendum to issue 50.
Yeah.
And we see some characters who are long deceased, such as Rewind, Pipes. Drift hasn't been around in forever, but he's not dead.
Yeah, so
we see a few characters actually who have just gone, like Fort Max and some of the others.
So that story originally was at the end of issue 50? Is that where it's supposed to be?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not supposed to be at the end of 55.
No, it's in the back. Yeah, it's in the ass end of the trade for whatever reason in reprints.
Okay. Because I got I thought that was like an epilogue kind of thing. Like they figured out a way to get...
epilogue to 50.
To 50.
And you're supposed to feel, or you're supposed to know that something bad's going to happen. As if you didn't already, by the way, because Roberts is writing this. But anyway, as if you didn't already, because Getaway is the one looking at, the crew when Megatron says, well, why would you go back in time? Well, you'd, see all the people that you can't see anymore because they're gone. Well, there's your cue that some more people are going to die.
Yeah. With issue 51... we start at the fortress.
As they call it, yeah, even though it's just a building.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tarn and Co. give them a warning and then leave. As Megatron says, show of power, let them worry, and then leave.
Yeah, and then he promises to come back.
Yeah.
What I love about, and I think this is more so Tom B. Long than anybody else, the title shot pages, like where Megatron says that, then he promises to come back. The dying of the light, how the colors are changed on the letters through each of these parts of the story as the story is through each of these issues.
It was different.
How they go from kind of how it kind of goes from like a whitish light gray to dark gray. Because dying of the light to me it's obviously Megatron's story.
So as we go... Oh, go ahead.
Swerve is the one that says, just so you know, right here, right now, has reached the top of my situation's never-to-be-in list. So I saw the right here, right now, and the first thing I thought of was the 1990s Jesus Jones song.
I feel like I go off topic a lot on this show, but at least my brain sort of stays like within the realm of possibility. Anyway, so our crew, first of all, attempting to discover ways out, they find the teleporter is an option to leave, or at least they think it is. I'm really curious if it would have actually worked. We'll get into that a little later. Megatron says he's not leaving. He vows to sort of sacrifice himself, finally sort of embracing the Autobot in that he's supposed to be. Having said that, this is a callback too to the speech Skids gives him way back in Slaughterhouse. And yeah, this time Megatron makes the Autobotly, whatever you want to call it, decision. Now, stupid move number one from Rodimus. As well, during this speech, he refuses to listen to 10 at all, which is important later on.
Yeah.
And, going forward, they all split up. They send Ravage out to try to discover a ship to get off the planet. Preferably, the DJD's ship so they can leave. Megatron leaves to have a chat with somebody who, let's be honest, we all knew it was going to be Tarn.
Yep.
10 follows Ravage. See, I was starting to like Ravage, but then he uses 10 as a distraction, so while the DJD and everyone else beat the crap out of him, Ravage is able to sneak around, which is really mean, because 10 gets absolutely mauled.
Yeah.
We discover what 10 was trying to say, which is they can come up with some sort of defense to help keep them alive. Meanwhile, the issue ends with 10 getting absolutely torn apart by the DJD. However, just before probably the killing blow, they're stopped by somebody. And though the two someones that intervene and save him, I mean, it's... I don't know, it's the return of Ravage. It's the return of Drift and Ratchet. There we go. Blech.
Yeah.
Which was really great, and I think anybody who watched it definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah. Because at this point of the story, Ratchet had already... We already talked about this. Ratchet left, in 48 or 49? What was Ratchet's goodbye issue?
I think it was 47.
47.
No, it was in the 8th trade, so it was before then, actually.
Okay, well, anyway. So Ratchet had left, and Drift has been gone for a long time because we had Empire
of Stone.
Drift. Empire of Stone, that's what it is.
Drift left in the 5th trade of More Than Meets the Eye, although technically it was at the end of the 4th.
Yeah. And so we now have them coming back, which I find is interesting. I think that's kind of cool. Because again, we're kind of at, the final run here, so you want to bring everybody back that you possibly can. And Drift never did get killed, so, he and Ratchet are back. 52.
We open with the crew, in this case, Ratchet, Drift, eventually 10, who, gets up, trying to fend off the DJD and Desaurus's crew with limited to no results. There's some great banter here, by the way.
Yeah, there is.
Anytime Ratchet and Drift are sort of... They're friends, but their banter is very much antagonistic with each other.
Yeah.
So anyway, in the end, Drift takes the pet, as in Kaon's Spark Eater, hostage. And with that, Ravage is able to help them get away by using the ship that Ratchet and Drift came in on, which promptly gets shot down, and they have to land and all go back to the place anyway. Meanwhile, Megatron is chatting with Tarn, which has amazing dialogue. This whole issue has some of the best dialogue in Transformers, period.
It does, yeah. My favorite line out of this issue is from Megatron. I am more than aware of my legacy. Every day I collapse under its weight.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if I could just, steal Frank Welker for a day and have him read Megatron lines for a 12-hour Wally Burr session, I would. Because, oh my god, I need to hear half of Megatron as an Autobot lines coming out of Frank Welker. That would be amazing.
Tarn stuff is great here, too. But yeah, Megatron also has, the comments that... I know that not long ago somebody tried to kill me before I was born, and I know that I hated them less for their ambition than their failure to realize it, which is great. But yeah, Tarn sort of basically says, in the end, I'm doing this because I admire the person you were and hate the person you are.
Yeah.
And yeah,
and
Tarn...
before that, I love Tarn where he says, "This is it? You won't even try to resist? Fight back, damn you!"
It's just after, yeah, it's the next line.
Oh, okay, it's after that, okay.
Yeah.
Never again.
Yeah, so Tarn beats the ever-living crap out of Megatron, and seemingly, Megatron, ends up laughing and just saying, I'm better like this.
Yeah.
And Tarn says, no, you're better dead, and shoots him with his dual fusion cannon, tearing Megatron's chest apart. Megatron survives this, although barely. And, as Tarn is going to kill him, he's interrupted by none other than Overlord. So things for the Autobots went from horrific to even worse. Since, the entire team, including Megatron, wouldn't have a chance against Overlord. But, anywho, in the meantime, Ratchet and Drift return. We get a great scene between Rodimus and Drift. Yeah, that Drift is quick to forgive him, but again, Rodimus was, made the poor decision.
I love the panel of the two of them where Rodimus opens the door and it's just him in shadow with his Autobot insignia showing in the sides, the red of the sides, where he's like,
yeah, the sort of glowing bit.
There you are. Been looking for you everywhere for you. That makes a change. Ow, direct hit, lose a life. And I love that they're actually, because it's been a long time since Drift has been in this for me. Like I've said before, I'm not like you. I have not gone back to read the original first few volumes of this. So it's, again, for me, it's open and refreshing to see these two together again.
Yeah. So we jump back. Tarn and Overlord are now fighting over who gets to kill Megatron. This doesn't exactly go all that well for Tarn, considering that, he can't hurt Overlord.
Yeah.
He can, knock him around a little bit, but it doesn't do any damage. And Overlord, meanwhile, can hurt him, but they eventually decide, all right, fine, we'll both kill Megatron. And in the end, Megatron has taken his crappy little scooter and headed back to relative safety, we'll say. And then we get to one of my absolute favorite scenes of this trade.
Rewind to Nautica?
No. I was going to skip over that because it's not super...
Oh, well, the only thing I want to bring up about it is poor Nautica. I mean, her face. Yikes. Poor Nautica.
Anyway,
okay.
I just loved the next scene is set on the Peaceful Tyranny, which is the DJD's ship. And Overlord is such a prick in this scene, or these scenes. He is delightfully evil and manipulative. I love hearing from him. I had missed him. He's just such a jerk to everybody. And he cares, doesn't care about anybody at all. So anyway, he taunts the DJD constantly in the whole thing. Probably because he knows, the entire crew can't hurt him, so he's just going to be a knob to everyone. But in the end, Kaon interrupts, upset that the Autobots have run off with the pet. And again, Overlord just consistently taunts Tarn about this and mocks, the DJD, etc., leading Tarn to, tell him, I never realized you cared for that creature as much as you do. Sorry, as much as you did, as he proceeds to rip Kaon's head off and then crushes the remains against Overlord's chest. So yeah, Overlord's goading basically, got Tarn angry enough to tear off one of his own troops' heads.
Yep.
And a nice little scene, Nickel and Desaurus quite clearly see that Tarn's not exactly the loyal person, Decepticon they thought he was.
Mm-hmm.
And, if Overlord's immature goading can make him, murder one of his own men in cold blood, it's not a good sign, considering that Desaurus in particular was only with him because he displayed the capability of being loyal, unlike Megatron, who was willing to just throw away troops.
Yeah. Yeah. And the issue ends with a bloody Autobot symbol.
Yeah, Megatron makes it back, and he's holding his Autobot insignia that was torn off by Tarn.
Dang. I like this issue. I think this issue is fun. I think we get more of the DJD. We get more of Tarn, Thesaurus, and Overlord, and watching the three of them kind of deal with each other is interesting. I never thought I'd ever really say this about Megatron, but he really is a sympathetic character at this point.
Yeah, that's kind of been this run.
Yeah. 53 starts off where we are on the Necro World again.
Yeah, Megatron's been being repaired. The crew is getting ready for what's about to happen. Tailgate's getting brainstorm raw materials. The others are kind of running around trying to see what they can gather. Rodimus decides it would be best to try to get some intel from the Spark Eater. So Chrome Dome, who's still recovering from the last time he took somebody's memories, gets up and decides he'll do it. Meanwhile, Magnus is being fitted for new armor / Minimus Ambus.
I love your scenes with him.
Yeah, anyway, Nightbeat begs him to be allowed to sort of go off and investigate the planet, since it's, might be his last chance to, and ends up taking Rung with him, leading to sort of a quick, awkward goodbye, because Donika's decided to be an Amica, and what the hell is it? Amica Endura, isn't it?
Endura.
Yes, all right. With a bunch of the Lost Light crew, Rung, Brainstorm, Velocity, Nightbeat, and Skids.
Yep.
Skids is taken aback by this, and it'll be interesting going forward to see why that is, because he has an awkward goodbye with Rung after that. He's clearly distracted. My guess is Skids was in love with Nautica, and wasn't happy that he got the Amica Endura treatment, because he probably wanted what's the damn it, what is it that Rewind and Chrome Dome are and the others? I can't remember now. Anyway, the sort of standard sort of marriage for Transformers. In any case, maybe that's what it is. I mean, I guess we'll see. So we jump back to Chrome Dome, who's now, working on the pet / the Spark Eater. And it should be noted that these scenes are now interspersed with Rewind finally talking to Minimus.
And I love these
about
scenes.
Dominus. And so, between the two scenes switching between each other, we learn that the Spark Eater was Agent 113, the DJD agent who was giving them information.
Right.
So the spy. B, we discover that it is in fact Rewind's long-lost love, Dominus Ambus.
Mm-hmm.
And Chrome Dome discovers it at roughly the same time.
Yeah.
So, number one here. Hell with it. We'll get to it after. So Rewind runs in.
Yep.
And in a really good scene that evokes the same... It's the same imagery as way back when Overlord killed Rewind. With Chrome Dome, missing an arm on the floor, because Rewind, when he's given the choice of either Chrome Dome or Dominus, slices off Chrome Dome's arm to save him. Using one of Drift's swords, by the way, which again is a callback, because it was Drift's sword that was stuck in the door that killed him way back. So all that was really good. That's how the issue ends.
Before the issue ends, what I love about this is you said Rewind comes running in.
Yeah.
When he comes running in, first of all, I love the panel of "It's him!" I love that spotlight panel on his design. And then he runs right into Rodimus and uppercuts him.
It's not actually the end of the issue. It's the end of that storyline, so I want to finish that. Yeah, Rewind correctly points out that Rodimus is an enabler. Rodimus is a complete piece of shit in this issue, and is one of the main reasons why I'm not a big fan. He's told repeatedly by both Ratchet and Drift that this is going to damage / potentially kill Chrome Dome, but he doesn't even acknowledge it. Yeah. He just, asks Chrome Dome, what do you see? Hey, keep going. And, nobody tries to stop him. He doesn't try to stop Chrome Dome at all, despite, again, Ratchet, and now it's Drift that calls Rewind in, and Rewind in the end stops it.
Yeah.
The finale to this, I forgot that this is still part of the same issue.
Yeah, is the Tarn stuff with...
Well, the main portion is Cyclonus and Whirl have fixed up the turrets on the outside.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this before, anytime Cyclonus and Whirl talk, it is wonderful.
Yeah, it is.
They're great together.
Yep.
And, my favorite bit of that is Cyclonus's, Whirl asks, Cyclonus says, he'll survive this at any rate, talking about Tailgate. And Whirl replies, because of the upgrade, and Cyclonus just says, because I'll split this world open and tear down the sky before I allow him to come to even the slightest harm.
Yeah.
And, I liked that. The entire conversation is great. The dialogue in this issue is amazing. The dialogue in this entire trade is astounding.
Yeah, and it really is. Roberts is beyond his A game at this point.
Yeah. And we close with, they've made Megatron a new cannon, he refuses to use it, and the rest of the Autobots decide to, charge possibly to their death.
And Rodimus tells him that he is the better captain.
Yes.
Or Megatron tells Rodimus that Rodimus is the better captain.
Yeah, which is definitely not true, but anyway.
Obviously. We have Brainstorm revealing Maximus Ambus.
Yeah. New armor Minimus.
A much larger Ultra Magnus, Ultra Maximus, or whatever they're going to call him. Oh, it's hilarious. I love it. And I think my favorite panel after that is, come here, guys, group hug. It's hilarious. And that's how the issue ends, with the group hug, and they all go out fighting.
Yes. 54 opens with the fighting continuing, but the Autobots are doing surprisingly well. To the point that Chrome Dome, punches... By the way, another great scene here is Overlord confronts Chrome Dome and taunts him about Rewind dying slowly and painfully. But Chrome Dome punches, Overlord and knocks him, away quite a distance. And that's somewhat surprising. And as Tarn mentions... mostly Desaurus actually mentions that he's very surprised at how well they're fighting them off. And we get a flashback to just earlier.
Yeah.
where we discuss Tailgate's spark spasm, which empowered the people around him temporarily because he suffered something traumatic. So they discuss doing it again, and Skids willingly submits himself for it. And Chrome Dome, without the use of his needles now, because he's decided finally to stop doing it, and Rodimus doesn't enable him for once. Chrome Dome helps Skids remember what we saw in issue 49.
Right.
Which is Quark dying and a whole bunch of others at Grindcore because of Skids.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's the spasm that's allowing the Autobots to survive. Unfortunately, it wears off.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get another fantastic conversation between Ratchet and Megatron, which, you know, is over the dying body of Skids. And Ratchet finally tells Megatron that the stuff he's been taking that supposedly weakens him, the Fool's Energon, isn't real. Megatron's been in control this entire time.
Yeah. And that's so great, because you see that Megatron is willing to change, unlike, you know, 4 million years ago he wouldn't have been, but, you know, it's been 5 million years at this point.
And in a lot of ways, Tarn is Megatron at this point, too, in that he refuses to change or to deviate, and has decided that Megatron needs to die.
Yeah.
So interspersed with this is Ravage on the screen. And Ravage, you know, finally Tarn catches him and literally rips Ravage in half.
Okay, before we get to this, because I know this is really emotional, I have to go back to one of my favorite scenes. This is right before Ratchet and Megatron's conversation, where Rodimus flames out. I love that, because I'm like, eat your heart out, Johnny Storm.
Which he mentions he hasn't done in a while. It's the last time was Maximum Dinobots.
Oh, sweet. Love that. So we get the Megatron Ratchet conversation, which is very awesome.
Yeah, and then
again,
go ahead.
I know to get worse, but I love just how Megatron's attitude and his outlook has kind of evolved, and he is trying his best to not necessarily change or evolve the people around him, but because of his attitude, like, he's not sending Whirl out or Rung out to die. Like, you know, normally, if it was Megatron the Decepticon, he would have just shot them with the fusion cannon.
Yeah,
I'm loving Megatron's character change and character, and just building of the character.
He's concerned that once he starts killing, he won't ever stop again.
Yeah.
And he may not be wrong. So anyway, Ravage gets torn in half. Skids, unsurprisingly, because it was mentioned a long time ago that if Skids found out what happened, he would probably kill himself. Well, Skids dies trying to tell Brainstorm what happened to Quark. It should be noted in a nice callback, the last thing Skids ever says is, "I'm scum, Ratchet, scum." And the first thing he said is, "Why is my name Scum?" in this series, which is a really nice / depressing callback. So Skids dies, which is I was miserable at this point. We get the Sleep Tight Soldier from Ratchet.
Yeah.
And the Autobots and crew are surrounded, and things look rather bleak.
And then Megatron comes in blasting.
Oof. And we get an amazing one-page panel of a very angry Megatron. And I've noted this before, that if you pay attention, the Autobots insignia changes its mood based on Megatron's.
Yeah.
And it's very angry here.
Yeah, it's Hulk angry, folks. It's amazing. I love this panel. Because he has his cannon again. Like we said earlier, they wanted him to take it back. It's not necessarily his original one, but they tried to make it as original as possible to the original fusion cannon, and I just absolutely love that. Probably the only time I'm not going to complain about the Choom
Megatron,
text.
Yeah, Megatron proceeds to absolutely destroy everyone thrown at him.
Yep, pretty
as
much.
Tarn and Co. watch on. Tarn has Desaurus converge his troops who are getting slaughtered while pulling back his own, which again is not making Nickel or Desaurus feel particularly good.
Yeah.
But in any case, they continue. Megatron reaches the body of Ravage and absolutely screams at Rodimus and Co. to get inside because he doesn't even need them, and proceeds to continue decimating everyone until calling out Tarn again. Mm-hmm. Now earlier in the book, when Nickel, using Voss in his sniper rifle mode, fired on Chrome Dome, you'll notice he hit him directly in the shoulder. And here they hit the stock of Megatron's fusion cannon. So same area, different arm. So obviously they were practicing for this. Megatron, as Tarn says, without his gun he is nothing. Megatron drops to his knees, seemingly in surrender, and they proceed to, in theory, execute him off-panel. Not before we find out, too, that Rodimus and everybody are watching, and Velocity and Velocity and Ratchet are working on Ravage, while Nautica and Ten are looking over the corpse of Skids.
Yeah.
Which again is sad.
Yeah,
so
sad.
This was a great issue for a continuum of anything else.
Yeah, it was an amazing issue. Issue 54 was great. Everything about it is just so fun. The writing is great. The art is great.
This story,
so many good Megatron images in this specific issue. The whole trade, honestly, but this specific issue has so many great Megatron shots.
This this storyline works much better in trade formats. I read it individual issues, in singles, and it works a lot better in trade. It reads a lot faster with less stopping, basically. So I don't know, but and then we reach the finale.
Yep.
Where sort of everything becomes clear. So first of all, we open with the Black Box Consortium, who we haven't seen for a while. But essentially, Getaway's deal was for Overlord. All right, so in terms of who knows what, Getaway had the Black Box Consortium and wanted them to kill Megatron. Getaway didn't know about Overlord, because there's no way he could have. And he didn't know about Tarn and the DJD. So in terms of how evil Getaway was, he didn't know that he unleashed a sadistic Phase Sixer and the DJD on Rodimus and crew. He thought it was just the consortium, and they might just take Megatron, and the rest might be stranded. He didn't know that, he unleashed a bunch of psychopaths and that the Necrobot would be killed and et cetera, et cetera. Presumably. At least that's how it seems. And the consortium here seem not interested in keeping their promises and essentially conspire to blow up the entire planet.
Yeah.
This is important very soon as we discover Megatron survived the attack of Overlord and Tarn by activating Trailbreaker's force bubble. If you look very closely, way back in issue 35, when Megatron handles Trailbreaker's corpse, he indeed picks up his hand, but we never see him put it back down.
Right.
So that was a nice touch. He had planned for all of this, and Ratchet, damn it, why do they keep mixing them up? Ravage ends up sort of taunting them about how many steps ahead Megatron always is. Meanwhile, Desaurus is struck with the conscience sort of weapon, and he and Nickel feel miserable about all of the deaths on their heads because Tarn and his little vendetta. So Desaurus and his troops pull out. More troubling for everybody again, and I love this character. Overlord leaves because he's a prick. Because Overlord is working for the Black Box Consortium, and Overlord knows that the planet's going to be destroyed.
Yeah.
And so because he's such a jerk, he doesn't bother to tell Tard or anyone else. He just leaves.
Just leaves, yeah.
I love him. Also, by the way, how dumb is the Black Box Consortium for working with him? Because, I mean, he's inevitably just going to get bored and kill all of them. Anyway. Whatever, nobody said they were smart. They weren't smart in their first appearance, so this is not out of character. So yeah, Megatron is trapped inside the bubble. Everyone has left. And we jump back to Ravage taunting Brainstorm. And the stolen briefcase is brought up. But Megatron left the briefcase. And we will eventually find out that he left it here on the Necro world. In the meantime, Tarn breaks through the bubble to have a chat with Megatron, who was indeed not, upset or anything. Megs proceeds to get up and just maul the DJD.
Yeah, he
tears off Tarn's cannons before he can fire. And we discover Whirl's arm from way back in the first issue of Season 2. And we get an explanation that Megatron, and by the way, this is a really neat sort of reference to both his tech specs and the old Marvel UK stuff from Furman, where Megatron could tap into antimatter.
Yep.
And Megatron, enraged, tells Tarn that he'd won. He was going to accept his fate. He was at peace. He was happy, and the DJD came back and ruined everything. At this point, by the way, the mighty DJD are pounding on the wall of the bubble trying to get out.
Yep. Because it was never about keeping them out; it was about drawing them in with the bubble. So. Yeah, I like this. I think this is great. We do eventually find out who Tarn is, which is kind of interesting.
I think it's interesting because Overlord was right. So Megatron kills each one of the DJD one by one, leaving Tarn for last. And we get this gorgeous scene that, Tarn tells him, do it, at least I'll die a Decepticon, and Megatron says, you and I both, and tears off his mask and puts it on as his insignia.
Yeah.
And finally we discover Tarn, in fact, was not Roller, who has emerged randomly. In the end, we discover it's from the cryopods. They weren't filled with organics, they were filled with Transformers. And it was all of the names that were on the missing list of the Necrobots list. So Nightbeat's speech to him way back convinced him to use the briefcase to go back and save these missing characters. So it's the Necrobots' fault they're missing, A, but B, they're alive. And so anyway, Roller is one of them, so he's obviously not Tarn. We discover Tarn is actually Glitch, who was a member of Optimus Prime's, and Pax's, actually they were Shockwaves, but anyway, squad of outliers.
Yeah.
And if you go back and read the issues with him, Glitch is present every time they talk about Megatron.
Yeah.
And it's a nice little nod that in the end actually makes sense, as well as Tarn's weaponized voice is an extension of Glitch's powers that we saw early on. And Shockwave even says his powers are going to get stronger and change. Yeah. Well, they did.
So. Oh, yeah, they did.
So, yeah.
My favorite part of this whole reveal and the ensuing, Rodimus comes in to try to save Megatron. I love the two panels. I'm going to have my buddy Neil put these together for me. But in the Comixology guided view, we've got Rodimus saying, "Brainstorm's pulling me back in 5 seconds. Come on," because he's reaching for Megatron. And you have a close-up of Megatron's face, and you have a close-up of Rodimus's face. And you can clearly tell the two very different emotions on their faces.
Megatron was prepared to and wanted to die here.
Yeah.
And Rodimus, is surprised by that Megatron is more than willing to face his death. This will become a theme in Lost Light, but anyway.
Okay.
Because one of them's prepared to die for what he believes in, the other one is not.
Yeah.
And so anyway, they return to the Necrobot's fortress.
Where
just
Ravage
in time.
Is, and This is the heart wrencher, folks. This is the.
I still maintain Skids' death was worse, but anyway, Megatron gets back in time just to say, I'm here, Ravage. I'm here. It's me. Ravage paws Megatron's insignia, which is now the Decepticon mask from Tarn, and says, "Don't change back," which is exceptionally interesting because we don't know what he means. As in, don't change back to an Autobot or Decepticon. It's deliberately vague. Ravage then dies, and we get a neat sort of 3-panel view of Soundwave just collapsing, holding himself up by a table.
Yeah.
So he knows Ravage died.
At least he's not flipping the table.
Yeah, Megatron's response is a nice callback to Prowl way back in the first issue. It's the exact same scene. It's drawn the same way with Megatron flipping the table.
Yep.
Megatron loses it and points his fusion cannon at everybody, but deciding that he needs to leave now. When he's interrupted by Terminus, who is alive. He was one of the ones saved by the Necrobot, and Terminus asks him what's happened. And Megatron says nothing, everything, and then just, I lost my way. And the insignia falls off of him, and he's an Autobot again.
Yeah.
So then we get a brief sort of denouement of how all of this happened. I mentioned it before, that the Necrobot, thanks to Nightbeat, used the briefcase to go around and save the missing Transformers. And then we get the setup for Lost Light, which is the last 2 panels are the Geobomb from the Council going off wherever it is Nightbeat and Rung are. And this is important because it appears the Necrobot's world was actually a mold in which Cybertron was forged.
Yeah.
Also, time is working differently, so the two of them are there at a completely different time than everyone else.
Yep. Dying with a light conclusion. Do not go gentle.
The end. So Skids and Ravage are dead. The DJD died.
Yeah, that's good.
That's something that a lot of people have discussed before. The only thing I'll say is Overlord very much said it best, probably, because he discussed the fact that Tarn was a nobody and just a thug.
Mm-hmm.
And Glitch, if it had been Roller's pretty well known and, was literally friends with Orion Pax, etc., etc. This, in the end, made more sense. Overlord obviously knew who he was.
Right.
I don't know. For a lot of people, it was a downer, or a down note, just because it wasn't somebody notable. But on the other hand, it was set up to not be somebody notable too, so...
Yeah, and I mean, I like it. I think it's interesting. I think that this might be the best character developed Megatron story almost ever.
When you combine it with the other stuff, the previous trades, it pretty much is by far.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. His entire arc, because this essentially concludes season 2. I mean, yeah, we still have 56 and 57, which will happen when we do Titans Return, but, this pretty much is...
It is. I mean, the other stuff is basically just it's a complete, it has nothing to do with this.
Yeah. And, from issue 28 to issue 55, it's a full-on character growth story, and it's great because how many times anybody, not just us as fans of Transformers, but anybody in general, how many times are they going to see a Megatron that is just the Decepticon leader? Most of the time. I mean, 99.999% of the time, that's what you see Megatron as. But if you give this a shot and you're willing to look at it on, what it is, that, he is making up for his
he's
5
trying
million,
to at least.
He's trying to, and he does have his moments of in the classroom scene at the end when he goes off on somebody and punches somebody or whatever. Obviously he's gonna have those moments, but
Well, to be fair, I mean, he was tortured with the voices, of all the people he's killed, but yeah.
Yeah, the because in the back of the trade, as always, they have the various different covers. My two favorites are the Dying of the Light Megatron, which is issue number 50, cover sub A1, and then cover sub B, which is just Megatron.
I liked the normal one for, I think it was 52, but anyway, the one where Tarn is holding down Megatron and it's a picture of his face being pummeled was really well done.
Yeah. There was a retail exclusive or whatever for 52 by Juan Carlos Ramos, where it's G1, Megatron and Optimus facing off with Unicron at the top over Cybertron, so that's kind of cool. I really dig Brendan Cahill and John Paul Bove's Don't Worry, We're the Good Guys. I love that one because it's Megatron, Cyclonus, Whirl, Ravage. Absolutely love that.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That was an alternate cover for 52. Alternate for 53 is Swerve at his bar, which is cool. Alternate for 54, retail incentive was Windblade, Nautica, and... No, that's Velocity, not Chromia. So I enjoyed that. The Rodimus one, the alternate for 55, the subscription one for 55 is kind of cool. But who is the bot behind him in that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I'm not holding the tree. What is it? The alternates?
For 55, it's Rodimus and somebody else in the background behind him.
Oh, it's Rodimus and isn't it Rom the Space Knight?
Oh, okay, that's a ROM alt cover. That's what that is. I just love the way that Rodimus looks, though. That was cool.
Yeah, if there's one thing I love, it's the whole revolution thing. Anyway.
All right, we'll get to that.
Ooh.
Come on now. Come on now. Can't be that bad. Well, it probably can be, but we'll get to that later. Overall, More Than Meets the Eye, Volume 10, Dying of the Light, absolutely enjoyed it. I think it was a nice send-off for the entire series. Callbacks galore, as always, as it should be. All of the artists do amazing work, as always. And Roberts' writing has honestly never been better. Hello?
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay. I'm just making sure. What would you give Volume 10 for More Than Meets the Eye?
By default, I mean, I pretty much have to give it a 5. I mean...
Yeah.
There's... I don't know, I mean, there's probably the biggest thing is a comic or a story generally succeeds if you feel something, and this book definitely made, I think, pretty much anybody who read it feel something.
Absolutely it did.
Yeah, so it was definitely a success on that note. And yeah, it closed off a lot of the old threads. So we find out who Tarn is in the DJD. We discover, or rather we close off Skid's story arc and, not knowing what he had done and his past, etc., etc. That's completely closed. We get some closure on the fate of Overlord. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know. There's a few of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I gotta say, yes, Rodimus can be a dumbass, but I still like him.
I don't know. Yeah, his behavior in this one was pretty bad.
Yeah, it kind of was.
Mostly he's using a poor Chrome Dome.
Yeah, that was bad, I will say. That was very bad of Rodimus. Bad Rodimus, you should not do that. But overall, his entire... Because he's not focus of the story. I mean, he's... I don't want to say he's a background character to Megatron, but he kind of is, because this whole trade is pretty much the conclusion of Megatron's story.
Well, yeah, the entire season
with Tarn,
was very much dedicated to Megatron, and to a lesser extent tying up a fair amount of the stories from the first series of trades.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just so wonderful. Everything about this book, everything about this trade, folks, is absolutely amazing. There's nothing in this that is off model. There's nothing really in here that... I can't even nitpick anything, honestly.
One of the things I found, too, is, and I hate to... It seems like I'm picking on John Barber, but one of the things too is Roberts' stuff here is probably a better send-off for the title. I mean, he closes off a lot of the threads pretty much expertly, and while I'm not a huge fan of the renumbering and the renaming to Lost Light 1, enough threads were closed off here that it's I guess a little more okay. Obviously, some of the major stuff though, like Getaway has taken the Lost Light, is fairly important in terms of direction. So it's still bad timing, but what are you gonna do?
Not much you can do. And as I said, folks, we will be coming back to Transformers later in 2017 because this is the 30th anniversary of when the G1 cartoon ended this year. 30 years ago this year is when G1 went out with a rebirth.
Went out with a whimper.
Hey. So we are going to take a quick break, come back, and let you guys know what's coming up next time on the Pull Bag and next time for our Transformers coverage as well. We'll be back after this.
We brought the entire convention center to the brink of an inter-genre geek war.
Okay, Michael, if we're going to tackle this podcast thing, we've got to do something really special. It has to be cool, daily, in audio form, and undetectable by radar. Something that screams summer. I know, let's do a Phineas and Ferb review podcast. We'll call it the Podcast Organization Without a Cool Acronym, or POWCA for short. What do you think?
I think if we're not careful, Candace is going to bust us.
You can find POWCA on the Geekcast Radio Network, iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, and all of the other methods you find podcasts.
We'll give you the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge.
We are back here inside the pull bag, wrapping up Autobotly April here in the first week of May. And coming up next in the pull bag is going to be our Batman month. It's our third annual Batman month. Join JT from Saskatoon and I as we talk about more of Batman Beyond, the 2015 series by Dan Jurgens and Bernard Chang. We talked about the City of Yesterday, Wired for Death arcs, and then we get into Batman Beyond Rebirth, which is the 2016 series, where we talked about Escaping the Grave, parts 1 and 2. I call it parts 1 and 2 because I had to split the issues up. But anyway, also in next month, we're going to have, it's basically kind of all animated feel. You know, Batman Beyond was the original cartoon series, all that. But Joe Reed and I, in the middle of that, are going to talk about the Batman TMNT Adventures series, the 6-issue series from IDW and DC Comics. So that'll be going on.
Which was surprisingly good.
I have not read it yet.
Well, if you want to know what happens, you see...
Shut up! I will find some way to fly into Canada just to beat your ass if you spoil that. And as I said earlier in the show, before we took the break, folks, next time we will be talking Transformers here inside the pull bag. It'll be another Autobotly month where it'll be Autobotly August. So there's another one of these Autobotly things going on. And in that, we're going to talk about a bunch of different Transformer stuff that honestly has nothing to do with Lost Light or Optimus Prime just yet. So in Autobotly August, we're going to be talking about Transformers Punishment, Redemption, and Salvation, 3 trades, 1 podcast. This is all of the Dinobot arc stuff.
Which, to be fair, does tie into
it does.
XRID.
It does.
Spoiler alert, it's the best stuff Barber's written by a mile because it's amazing.
Okay, there you go. Episode 150 will be myself, Lady Wreck, and Ryan talking about Sins of the Wreckers. And then the Windblade crew will be joining me for Till All Are One Volumes 1 and 2. Ryan will be back to talk about Angry Birds Transformers. So we're going to have a little fun with Angry Birds and Transformers. And then at the end of Autobotly August, in a Back Issue Classics episode, we'll talk about Titan's Return, which is the conclusion to this series.
Yeah,
and then after that, at some point, sort of. The aftermath, I guess. And then at some point, probably, Ryan's probably going to hate this, but whatever. The next time we'll talk about Transformers will probably be February of next year, which I know that's a long ways away, but we can always pre-record.
What about your
special
on the last night?
Oh, well, yeah, but that's not comics.
I want to know. I know you want to talk about it for at least 4 to 5 hours.
No, not really. Not at all.
This is my favorite movie ever, and
oh please, I don't think have I liked the Transformers live action movies? Have I liked certain aspects to them? Yes,
I'm going to debut
but I don't
my list of 10 reasons why Transformers 5 is way better than the 1986 film.
Somebody please put a fusion cannon to his head.
You know I'm not
what the
serious.
What's wrong with you? I know you're not serious, but Jesus Christ, dude. Fusion cannon to the head right now. Anyway. So yeah, that's what's coming up here inside the pull bag. We've got pretty much this year, I'm not going to reveal everything, but pretty much this year, almost every month is going to be a spotlight month. As I said, we got Autobotly August. We got Batman month coming up in May this month, I should say. June is going to be a little bit of a spotlight month, but not really. July will be. September, October, pretty much everything is spotlights for various things this year inside the pullbag. Stuff that I've been wanting to get to for a while, so hopefully certain trades get released by the time some of the later content is supposed to come out.
To be fair, they've been pretty good about releasing the trades on time.
I know they have. So I'm one of those where I may or may not be here in October or November. I may be going on vacation, so some of the stuff I want to pre-record. So yeah. Where can the people find you online, sir?
On Twitter, at Nightbeat. I finally got it
right. Hey, you remembered. Yay. You can find me on Twitter at TFG1Mike. You can follow at The Pullbag on Twitter. Also follow at Geekcast Radio and This Week in Geek as well. Until next time, make your great escape into comics, and we will catch you later.
This is getting expensive.
You've just heard the latest episode of The Pullbag, the GCRN's comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate our show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Call the voicemail line, 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you are leaving the message for, and your name. Become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. Send us an email feedback at geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at geekcastradio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.